Okay, me and cootzy wootzy are looking into some power factor equations. Me and JDC Musician Man were talking about this subject. I didn't really explain myself very well when I was talking about what I meant by power factor. In this book I have here, I've highlighted these equations, and what you can see there is that the apparent power is in fact amps times voltage, just like we've been using and showing on our videos. But AC current has three elemental constituents to it that tend to alter the actual outcome. As you can see, the second highlighted formula represents the real power, which is shown to be 4,700 watts. Okay, now the difference in wattage is 1,449, which is 25% less than the apparent wattage. Which is what I meant by AC current is not revealing the true wattage. Because it's a sine wave and not a constant voltage. Let me find a good page. Kind of like these sine waves you see here. It talks about impedance and reactance and all this stuff and the power trigonometry and all that. There's a little bit of trigonometry involved in coming up with the actual power in an AC circuit. This book is horrible on the subject. It's got very vague descriptions. So there was that. Here's a better illustration of what I'm getting at. Because the area under these curves is not the same as what would be a DC waveform, the power is different. The area under this line represents the wattage or the current. As you can see, the AC waveform has far less area underneath its humps. So that's just another illustration of why AC power cannot easily yield its true wattage when using the typical DC equations. Here we go. In this book here, it says when the current is out of phase with the voltage, the power indicated by the product of the applied voltage and the total current gives only what is known as the apparent power. The true power depends upon the phase angle between the current and the voltage. The phase angle is determined, as before, from the resultant reactance and resistance. And down here it shows a little bit more about the whole power factor. Now, when I gave you the figure of 40%, I was speaking off the top of my head over something I read 6-7 years ago, if not longer. You can see here on the top, it turns out in this particular equation that the true power divided by the apparent power comes up to 0.9. So because we have a 0.9 power factor, if you were to multiply, say, 100 times 0.9, it should be 90 watts. 100 times 0.9 power factor, 90 watts, not 100 watts. That particular case is only 10%, but as we've seen in the first description, there was a 25% difference in the actual wattage. Because the phase angle is going up and down, and it's not a constant voltage across the top, the actual power delivered is not the figure given by multiplying volts times amps in AC current. That only works in DC current. So basically what I was trying to tell you is your torch is a little bit more efficient than you think it is, because the equations you're using on your MMW are not taking into consideration the fact that power factor is real and an unavoidable reality of AC current. So I wasn't trying to knock your cell, bro, and say that the stove was better or anything like that, or I was just trying to tell you that your torch is actually more efficient than you think it is, because it's not using the amount of power you think it is. So I'm going to look into this a little better. I'm going to find that book that told me 40% is a number that can sometimes be used to determine the actual wattage. It's a book without an index. So I'm pretty sure this is the book. But the guy who wrote it don't know what indexes are or didn't have the money to put one in there, one or the other. So I'm going to have to go through this whole thing to find it. The last two books I just showed you are absolutely horrible descriptions of power factor. I don't like those books at all. Wish I wouldn't have bought them. But I hope this kind of sheds some light on the subject. I want to post this video so that we can get a power factor page going. So if anyone who knows anything about AC current, could you please leave a comment and tell me how stupid I am if I'm wrong? And if not, help corroborate the fact that I'm right.